Dr. Shawn Bostic. Today, we're going to discuss organizational leadership and compliance as we prepare for our next gen compliance officers. When I started in the industry, it was quite some time ago. I was coming in after the generation of the baby boomers, but my generation was focused on work performance based on us getting to work on time, us uh, taking the appropriate lunch breaks, us being able to pick up the phone and respond immediately. And email, while it's in its infancy, was something that needed to be addressed. But the need for someone, a human person, to be there at any instance was the norm. So I know we moved away from this as technology has become more prevalent in our industry. We have the email notifications. We can set up our emails to respond automatically when we get a incoming email. We can have our phone systems leave messages when people call us that are explanatory and give them the next steps and steps, next steps and steps. But basically, we become a people of automation, people who can make these job more easy by putting a machine in the responsive mode. As we've gotten to this point, we have to realize that our generation, our next gen compliance officers, that is their norm. That's what they grew up with. Machines take care of urgencies. Machines do the work for us. People come in and do the back end evaluation and observation. Why this is so important is we're going to see a shift in compliance leadership. We're going to see a shift in the management style. While being overly focused on shift hours, people working from home or in office, and just the behaviors of how to act in the office, that is now becoming overshadowed with performance, and rightly so. Because at the end of the day, we want to show our clients the best performance out of the organization versus nobody's asking us about, well, do your employees get there at 8 o'clock or are they coming in at 8:30? Nobody's asking if, hey, do your employees take a smoke break during the break? No one's asking about your employees getting off early or asking for PTO. All of these things are inherently embedded in our thought process right now. We're bringing people back into the office after COVID. We want to see people in their seats. We want to give that collaboration feeling. We want people to know each other. But basically, these people that we're trying to get to know each other are a culture of people who are not accustomed to knowing each other in person. They're accustomed and their life has been spent getting to know one another through the internet, through chat rooms, through discords, and other means of engaging with people. So, as we push our younger folks to do compliance in the work environment that we're accustomed to, we're going to see some type of conflict. They're not going to be appreciated for what their values and beliefs are while we force them to take on our values and beliefs of worth ethics when we are wanting to see high performance based under our values and work ethics. Now, if we do not shift to understand the people that we're bringing in, we're going to lose the basic fundamental concept of performance when it comes to managing a compliance program. We need our people to understand trust, to build trust within the leadership team. We need them to understand what trust means And we need them to build that trust with financial professionals that they are supposed to be responsible for. They have this obligation to review their processes, their work. They need have the human responsibility to understand if the technology we're using to analyze these large data, if it's accurate or if it's not. We need their minds, their understanding, their skills in order to dissect the information and to point out red flags, to test our controls, to call out any fraudulent activity to protect our investors on the end. So, what does that mean? I mean, we do want to instill some type of ownership, some type of responsibility as it comes to, hey, you got a job to do. We're paying you for 40 hours a week. We expect you to be here for 40 hours a week. But is that still logical? Are we paying people for 40 hours a week of each of those minutes? Or should we be paying people for the value that they bring to us? Even when we are thinking to ourselves, hey, your value that you're bringing in right now is really not the our expectations. We expect you to do more. Let's put ourselves in the minds of the employees. We expect you to do more. We expect you to come in and work 8 hours a day. We expect you to take a 30-minute lunch break. We expect you to do all of these things that we know you didn't grow up with, but you should have learned this in school. You should have learned this at university. You should have learned these things to make a good employee so you can bring it to the workforce. All they learned was how to be a good employee based on the work that they can present to us, the work value that they bring in. Students are going to university and they're learning through virtual engagements. They're learning through collaborations with other teammates. They're learning with projects that are happening outside of their regular class hours. Schools are becoming less structured. Schools are more about, did you accomplish the project? Now, as we've seen from COVID, there's some schools are completely online, or there's some hybrid situations. People are adjusting at their younger age on how to accomplish objectives and goals without being subjugated to an 8 to 5 schedule. If we can focus on the quality of work, if we can focus on, okay, let's improve how we approach this particular case, project, or review, and eliminate the discussions of, hey, I saw you were on your phone. You're on your phone a lot. Or I saw that you, once again, were late. And quit muddying the waters. If we can get to the heart of the matter, I need you to give me your very best product, your A quality that I hired you for. What do you need from me to make sure you're always giving me your A game? What is discouraging you from your A game? I've worked with many people in the financial services industries, from operations, compliance, trading, different sections, different functions, different roles. And what I constantly hear in this very corporate environment is, I'm not seen, or I'm not appreciated, or even though I was able to solve this problem, or even though I was able to work and give my very, very best with minimal supervision, what I got at the end of the day was, hey, where are you? You weren't at your desk when I was looking for you. It's very discouraging. And that type of comment and that type of feedback that's totally ingrained into someone when it's constantly brought up means that the person is viewing their position as I am doing okay if I can get here on time. Not so much as I'm doing okay if I'm meeting the qualifications of the role, but the only thing they're going to notice me doing or not doing is showing up at 8 o'clock. Compliance is such an important function in financial services. It is one of the most regulated entities in our country. The most important thing that we need from our compliance for professionals is for them to get their job done right. We need to help them provide services to our teams that are services of support. There's another situation that I've experienced. I've had employees who have high value, extremely high potential, but it was difficult for me to get them to pay attention to the details. It's difficult for me to get them ingrained in the culture. It was difficult for me to get them online with, hey, I'm going to micromanage your portfolio. I'm going to micromanage your performance, actually. Or I need to make sure that you're not on your phone when my boss comes around because then my boss is going to tell his boss and his boss is going to see it. Or then there's this whole drama about, well, these people have been on their phones or these people were searching on the websites and these people weren't actually looking at the sites that may have been relevant to their position, even though I don't know what their position actually is. And we need to clamp down on that, especially when I'm struggling with some of the basic fundamentals of compliance, like we need to start taking notes on every conversation we have in order to have comprehensive documentation on regulatory matters. That is a very important attribute attribute of the work that they're doing. That is critical to my books and records and our understanding when we look back on the current situation. I'm less concerned with what time you're getting to work and more concerned with, are my files complete? Can I tell a story? What is the narrative here? What did you do and what steps did you take? If you have missed a step, or if there is a better way, or if we realize that there are gaps within the process we're doing because we are looking back and realizing that we should have done something else to help us now, then those things need to be addressed. And those things need to be addressed in the present. I am not going to go back historically on one moment in time and say, because you did not realize that this is the moment, this thing will be called out on this day in the future, just so happens it was. You should have known about it 3 years ago. You should have known that I was going to need this particular information 3 years in the future. It is up to us to make sure that we have all the right information in the present. It is our responsibility to understand any gaps that may have come up in the past that we need to correct when we discover it. It is reasonable to expect that we did not know the gaps that we had in the present, in the past, in the past, as we deal with those gaps in the present. This is the same for our policies and procedures, our rep manuals, our privacy policy, any desktops that we have in place to demonstrate control around the processes and within the securities regulations that we have to work within. This means that understanding and forgiveness of where we are here, where we are currently, where we are now, is the most important thing in correcting what happened in the past. In the human edge, human empathy, people to people, I am not going to get better production or performance out of my people when I call them on the carpet and say, you should have known that this issue was going to come up and you should have documented it. You should have asked additional questions about this one. You should have known that this particular thing was going to be the focus of our current FINRA examination. If we had that ability, just think about it. If I have the ability to know that what I'm doing today might result in a known thing in the future, I would be able to structure my life today to be more successful than I would in the future. That is just who we are as humans. And if I did something today to get me some type of scrutinized behavior, some type of bad outcome in the future, I wouldn't do that thing today. If I don't know today what will or will not be important, if I'm still doing the historical things that I've done, if I'm in a mode of, hey, this has always worked, we've never had any issues with it, hey, this is the way we are doing what we know to do based on what we've determined and decided, and then 3 years later, it is discovered that that thing we were doing, it could have been better. There's no way under organizational leadership, theories, understandings, and what is happening, that it should be acceptable for me to come to my team and expect them to be omniscient about what happened today based on what they screwed up yesterday. Now, if we have procedures in place and we find that procedures are not being followed, that's one thing. That's completely different. If we have overlooked certain procedures that may need to be implemented today, that's something a little bit different, don't you think? I mean, that's why we are consistently reviewing what we do today. This is your responsibility as you are building a positive organization and leadership, taking your leadership and leading people to be a part of a team that means something to them, to be a part of a team that's always looking for a better way of doing things. This is your job to lead a team that's both reflective, able to pivot, able to improve and move forward without the fear of what they do today might get them in trouble tomorrow. And if that feeling is already ingrained in that employee, there's nothing they can do to ensure that they're going to be there tomorrow. It's not a it's not something that someone wants to really improve their performance based on. I can't improve my performance in the unknown. With that thought in mind, I am talking to my people about how can we do better. I am talking to my people on what went wrong here. I am talking to my people about documentation and how do we ensure that this doesn't come up in the future. In the meantime, I have documented processes in place for the regulators so they can understand what we were doing at the time. And based on what was implemented at that time, I'm able to show that we had controls and systems in place in order to mitigate this particular regulatory concern. That's all I have to show my regulator. Well, I also have to show or have the good argument on, hey, we didn't do anything wrong. I mean, if you're just doing it wrong, if you're just blatantly violating securities regulations, you're going to have a problem. But regulators know that you can't really solve for the human edge. If someone wants to blatantly not follow procedures, or someone wants to be and doesn't care or have passion around what they're doing, doesn't even, you know, make sure they're doing the right job, or they're dismissive of what they need to do, they don't want to follow procedures, they don't care if they're right or wrong about the way they might interact with a client, the way they're interacting within the organization. They're just there checking a box or punching in without really being engaged or not really understanding the importance of their job. We have a slight issue. And I say slight because some people can be completely disconnected and not love their jobs, but do a fantastic job in monitoring or supervising, completing branch exams, reviewing portfolios to ensure they're within their guidelines. Some of these people have just a skill with doing that. And that's okay. They don't have to like the job just as long as that skill gives that fruitful results that we need. And as long as we understand their goals within the firm. Maybe they don't want to rise to the top. They're getting a decent paycheck. They're taking care of their families. They're doing something that comes natural to them. We need to keep these prodigies or understand their value, understand how we can support them, understand how we can guide them, and treat them in that manner in order to for us compliance people to meet our particular goals and objectives within the organization. This is actually something that I have written on. I actually did a series called the Zombie Leadership Theory, and uh, this whole the whole series centered on the fact that leaders will provide little carrots to their employees that don't mean anything to them. Basically, they're focused on salary. The health care that you're offering might be subpar. The pizza lunches might be not an incentive. When we put things out there that's really not an incentive for better performance, and we're amazed that better performance wasn't coming, that's on us. We didn't take the time to learn about what our people wanted in order to get them motivated or to push them in the right direction. And that is really on us. We can't push people based on what we think they need to do. You can't push people and think and make them perform better in a dead end career. What you have to find is what that person wants. What do you want in exchange for the value that you're bringing to our organization? What do you want in exchange for your loyalty to this organization, knowing what we can provide? How am I going to help you? And that helping and support might mean it might go outside of the company. It might mean that, hey, okay, what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to let you come in at your time and take 10 minutes to blow off steam and walk around and get back to your desk. I'm not going to say anything. I know you're going to come in early. I know you're going to take a break. It's immediately when you get here, traffic was horrible. You don't function well when you're in this mood. You need to go get your coffee. You need to sit down. You may even need to read the highlights of the news. But I know for a fact at a certain time, you're going to kick in and you're going to give me that full commitment and that full engagement and finish your projects within the time allotted. You're going to finish those projects within the deadline. Now that works amazingly with highly skilled employees. There might be other jobs that are basically you need to get 1,500 widgets done within a day, or we expect you to review X amount of complaints within a 48-hour period because the volume is so high. And these are the things that are shifting to automation, AI automation, and we are putting in workflows and we are creating AI analysis around some of these things. These are the basic conveyor belt things that we can program. We're going to be looking for those highly skilled individuals that aren't working on transactions, on automations anymore. They're going to be focused on that in review, that in observation. We want their minds sharp. We want these people happy because unhappy people don't pick out red flags. Unsatisfied employees don't help ensure that your firm is in compliance. Unhappy people say, the hell with it. I don't care. This is your problem, not mine. And just check a box. They coast through. It's up to you to figure out why they're not happy in their position. It's up to you to either shift their career goals to something else or to understand and get down to it. Hey, you liked your job yesterday. What happened today? What's going on? How can I help you? It might be the worst mistake in the world to take all of these administrative things or those work ethics that you valued so much in the past and drop them in a quarterly performance review and ignore every automation or every innovation this young person has brought to his position and focus on something small like that. And I call it something small Because in the end goal, this person has reasonably identifying risk and manage the risk within the controls and was able to bring in a bit of innovation during the quarter. We need to understand that that is the performance. That is what we're seeking. And some of these small things, it's almost like we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We need to think about our next gen compliance officers and how their worlds will shift as they prepare for their next generational compliance people. Things are going to change, and the human edge is going to be drastically important in a world full of changing technology, an increased focus on technology, an increased focus on how AI is doing some of these manual reviews, surveillance, analytics on our behalf. We're going to need to understand what is the most important thing our compliance team needs to focus as their jobs completely change. I am Dr. Shawn Bostic. My theory and philosophy is on the human edge, bringing the human edge into technology so we can prepare for the future. Thanks for watching.